Welcome to the Compendium podcast hosted by Leadership Books. In just moments, our host Michelle Smith will be joining us with a very special guest. Before we get started, I would like to introduce you to Michelle. She's an award-winning marketing professional with years of experience in diverse markets. She is a 4-time published author and is also a seasoned publicist and national speaker. Michelle has appeared on Rachel Ray, ABC, CBS, CNN, Fox National News, Success Magazine, and many national radio programs. And she specializes in helping authors and business owners achieve publishing success. Won't you please welcome Michelle Smith?
Hello, welcome to the Compendium podcast. I am your host, Michelle Smith, and I'm very excited to have Christine Ristaino this morning. She's the author of All the Silent Spaces. She's an Italian literature professor at Emory University and also focuses on issues such as social justice and education reform, both very important topics of today, and also has been featured in the Huffington Post, the Guardian, and as a publicist, I just love all the media that you've done. So congratulations on that and welcome.
Thank you so much, Michelle. So happy to be here.
So excited to finally meet you, like we just chatted about. So please tell me about your book, All the Silent Spaces, how it came into, I have some information, but how it came into fruition, the key takeaways. Let's chat and go from there.
Okay, well, my book is the result of a difficult experience. I was attacked in front of my children when they were 3 and 5 in a parking lot, and our lives completely spun. You know, we had to anchor ourselves in a new place. And as a result, I started writing the book because people kept asking me the race of my attacker, and I couldn't figure out why they were asking me that. And I just decided I was going to ask why. I'm from a small town in Massachusetts and an Italian-American family. And this whole idea of not talking about difficult things for me equaled strength when I was young. Like, you don't talk about your problems, you don't air your dirty laundry. So talking about race, it was something I was afraid of doing initially because I didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings. And I just decided I don't understand what's going on in the world, and I felt this urgency to understand. So I started asking people questions when they, for example, if they asked about the race of the attacker, I would ask them why they asked me that, and would have a conversation. I'd write the conversation down, I'd give it back to them, and I'd say, did I get it right? At the same time, there were people asking me about the experience because they had also experienced violence. And some people had experienced racism. So I was asking them questions about their experiences, and they talked about them with such grace and such courage and strength. And I started to redefine how I viewed strength. You know, strength wasn't hiding your experiences or being ashamed of them or not talking about them. Suddenly I realized strength was confronting your experiences, claiming them, owning them, and moving through them. And I actually had been molested as a child by my grandfather and raped at 21. I had never spoken about it, maybe told a few friends, but that was it. And I, at a certain point, realized I had to add this information into the book. And it was a fascinating conversation. I had a writing partner. She was looking at my first piece, and I was saying how I couldn't look at my daughter after I was attacked because I had blood on my face. I didn't want to scare her. And I wondered what she took from that I was ashamed. And I used all these words like shame in this piece. And she said, my friend said, a little girl wouldn't feel shame. You know, maybe she's afraid. She's 5 years old. Why would she feel shame? And we went back and forth. I said, it needs to be in here. And then she said, maybe you are feeling shame, but your daughter's not. And all these bells and whistles went off. And I said, oh my gosh, this little girl isn't my daughter, she's me.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I realized this book was about more than race. It was about having difficult conversations
Mm-hmm.
and about moving through grief and about moving through hardship and about having those conversations that a lot of people need to have to heal, to claim a story. Every time we tell our story, it loses strength and we gain power. So that's basically,
Wow.
it started out being a conversation about race, how we talk about race, a topic that I had shied away from for fear of hurting people's feelings. And it ended up being a book about difficult conversations, and how messy they are, but how vital and important they are, especially now.
The problem with most online bookstores is that, as an author, you have no connection to your readers. You have no idea if your grandmother, competitor, or that perfect client bought your book. If this wasn't bad enough, you're not privy to the purchase record of those buyers in order to sell them another book or service or consultation. The book retailer kept your sales data as their proprietary information, and you're the big loser. Now, to add insult to injury, because you have no connection to your book buyer, there's virtually zero chance that you'll connect to make them a client, hire you as a speaker, or attend your online course, a mastermind group, or privately consult with you. It's a model that has failed you time and time again. However, with Leadership Books, you'll always have access to your customers. We at Leadership Books would be honored to list your book alongside some of the most prestigious authors of our time. Would you like to join us? Just click the link below to get started.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I want to ask you about. How do you feel your book's going to help doing our current climate? Because it's very, race has always been a difficult conversation. And how do you feel like your book applies to our current state of affairs?
Well, I'm hoping my book can model how to have difficult conversations. I'm not always successful. In fact, I fall flat on myself. I fall flat on my face during a lot of the conversations in my book. However, I get up and keep having the conversations, and it actually moves me from a place of not knowing myself, not hearing my voice, ignoring who I was, to a place of real empowerment. Every time I have a difficult conversation, people ask me to refine my ideas because, for example, I have a lot of conversations with people who are at political odds with me, people who don't agree with me, and I'm having these conversations with the spirit of learning from them. And they may ask me, well, I don't understand, you need to explain this more, or they'll challenge me. And suddenly in my own brain, I'm going, okay, what are the subtleties around this conversation? I need to go deeper. And so going deeper helps me to get to know myself better. Going deeper has changed my life. It's made me more whole. It's allowed me to get to know myself. It's allowed me to live in my own body with strength and courage. And so it's stunning when, for example, a lot of survivors lose themselves. You can't talk about this huge truth in your life. And as a result, it becomes very easy to ignore all of your truths. And this helped me to gain my reality back, to gain footing in my own world and in my own body. So to answer your question after saying that, really what I'm hoping is that my book models how important it is to have these conversations, and even if they're difficult, how worthwhile they are to have.
Okay. And do you have an example that maybe you could share with one of your feedback from one of your readers, some of their stories after reading your book and how it helped them and the conversations that they had to have with themselves? I'd love to hear a little bit more about this.
Sure. So I'm a teacher. As you mentioned, I teach Italian. And I used to go into my classes and I would talk about Italian, and we would have a blast. We would have a really good time. It was fun, but I wasn't gaining those connections with students that I wanted after my class. That was it. I wouldn't see my students until the next class. But ever since I've been writing about race, about violence, about overcoming difficulties, my students have started to come to me and talk about their own experiences. And since my book was published, I have had so many conversations with students about their experience of violence, of racism, of illness, of death, death of a loved one. They come to me all the time. In fact, during the coronavirus, I think I have about 20 meetings a week with individual students who just want to talk. And that, this is what I've always wanted with my students. And what I discovered, so it's really helped people to open up to me. I've also received emails from so many people saying, I experience violence too. Thank you so much because you're mirroring my experience. The idea of finding yourself and losing your voice. So many people have said to me, I lost my voice completely. I still don't know who I am. And you really helped to outline in your book or explain in your book why that happens and how that's pretty normal for a survivor and it's okay. These feelings of loss, of, I guess, low self-esteem for me, I'm finally admitting that yes, I did have a very low self-esteem and I didn't really like myself for a long time. And I think it makes sense. The fact is somebody I loved and everybody in my family loved hurt me and I couldn't figure out why. And I said, well, if he's somebody everybody loves, then maybe there's something wrong with me. And it took me a very long time to get over that. And so I've had a lot of conversations with people who said, I experienced the same thing and I don't know how to feel better about myself. One of the conversations I've had with a lot of people is start little, start saying what kind of sandwich you want to eat. And then move forward. For me, it was hard to even say what kind of sandwich I wanted. I would say, whatever you're getting, I'll have, or what I want on my pizza. It doesn't matter to me. I like everything. But really, it matters because when we say, it doesn't matter to me, then we're actually saying, I'm not important. You're more important than I am. So I started little and I just moved up to more difficult conversations. The conversations on race were also vital because my son, the man happened to be Black, and my son was hiding behind my legs every time he saw a Black man. Oh, wow. I had to have these conversations with my own kids, and I realized just how important this language was for them to feel safe again. I know this is going on a tangent.
Wow, I love it. No, this is fantastic. Thank you. No, thank you.
It was interesting because I bought a video on stranger danger back when there were videotapes, and I was trying to decide, should I play this for my 3 and 5-year-old? Will they be afraid of people if I do? 2 days before the attack, I just decided to play it for them. And right after I was attacked, my little 3-year-old said, Mom, he was a don't know. And I realized he had the language to talk about what had just happened to us.
Oh, wow.
So I changed my whole parenting style because I realized my kids need the language to talk about difficult things. If they don't have the language, they won't be able to talk about it. And then I'm really not protecting them. So protecting them with the language by giving them the language to talk about difficult things. And we've talked about difficult things ever since. There's not a thing that they don't come to me about. I mean, maybe, but for the most part, it seems as though they're telling me everything. I'm always shocked by the things they bring up.
Hi, I'm Ron from Leadership Books. Leadership Books is a premier book retailer and news source specializing in nonfiction books. Books that help its readers change their lives, business, community, and family. Our authors are some of the finest thought leaders in the world of business, finance, and faith. Take a few moments and check out our authors, and I'll give you $10 off your first order.
Yeah. In fact, I won't tell you some of them, but they're.
I'm a 13-year-old little boy. Believe me. There's a couple of conversations that I wish I did not have to have. But at the same time, as a parent, though, it's like, I'm glad the door of communication's open. So I think that even opening up the conversation about race at a very young age I think that's important. That's beyond important. So I think you're helping people on so many different levels. I absolutely love it. One question I had, I want to back up for a second. When you first started, when people are asking you, like, what was the ethnicity of your attacker, and you started coming back with, well, why are you asking? I'm very curious, as I'm sure our listeners will be too. What were some of the responses that you received to that, the answers to that question?
Sure. So I had made assumptions about the people asking me that question. And initially I was getting a little angry and shutting down conversations left and right. But I did discover some people had been attacked and they wanted to know if it was the same person. That was the most shocking thing.
Wow.
Oh, gosh. I was shutting down this conversation when really this person needed to talk as well. And so that was a lot of women, unfortunately, have been attacked. They have experienced violence. And for a lot of women who asked me that question, they just wanted to figure out if this was the same man. My attacker never was caught. Oh. And so that's hard to know. He's still out there. And I remember there was a murder that took place and I was looking for his picture in the newspaper to see if he looked like the man who had attacked me. And it happened in Atlanta not long after my attack happened. So that was one of the questions. One person said, I just want to know who to be afraid of. And, it was interesting. My friend said, we're all afraid. We try not to be, and then you're attacked, and where our whole lives are up in, our whole lives are up in question, because if you can be attacked, any of us can be. So we're trying to figure out who to watch out for. And, I think about it, a lot of the follow-up that we had in those kinds of conversations were about social media, about commercials, about television and movies, because our stereotypes that we have are there because of how society portrays people. Yep. If you look in the newspaper, if you say you see this black man did this, this, and this, but if it's a white person, they don't mention white. And so all we're getting, we either get this person attack somebody and they don't give an adjective and then you realize it's a white man, or you have black or another descriptor. So it's very unfair. And even in cartoons, we get these messages. So it's impossible not to have internalized these messages. And really what we spoke about in some of these conversations is, how do you move beyond the messages? Yes, the messages will rush into our heads immediately. But then what do? We have to challenge the messages that we get every day. Yep. We have to challenge also how we're thinking about these things, because we've internalized our messages. So when we think a thought, we can say, is that really true? And I do that all the time now.
I think your book is so important in general, but especially today. I could speak with you about this for hours. You are fascinating. But since we're coming towards the end, I want you to show our listeners and our viewers your beautiful book cover. Please let us know what you have going on. How can we reach you for a speaking engagement or to purchase books? Please take it away.
Absolutely. So this is my book. It's called All the Silent Spaces. Let me see. Yeah, it's funny. The screen goes the opposite way. So here it is. And you can reach me at CRIST as in Tom, AI at Emory, EMORY.edu. I work at Emory University. So if you forget or you can't understand how I'm spelling everything, because sometimes it's hard to hear the letters, just go to Emory University, look up Christine Ristaino. But you can email me anytime. I love talking to people about this subject. I'm not afraid to talk about it. It is part of my reality. I've claimed the events. And now I really want to change the world. I want to talk about how we discuss violence and race and all of these difficult conversations so that we can change the way we talk about them and look at them and all heal as a nation. So you can contact me by email. My website is christineristaino.com. My name is at the bottom of my screen. And so you can also go to my website. There are a lot of podcast interviews. There are a lot of videotaped events and things like that. So go there. I would love to speak. So as I said, I want to change the way we view violence and the way we talk about violence in this country. So I have a lot of things I'd love to say on that topic, and I am giving talks all the time. And I'd be honored to give a talk with your community. And book clubs. If anybody has a book club, I would be so honored to participate. If you want to read my book, I'll just come and join you and be part of the discussion. So all of these are ways you can contact me. Reach out anytime. My life's work is having these conversations.
Christine, thank you so much for joining us today. This is such a wealth of information, and thank you for your time. Thank you to everyone who's listening, and definitely if you do not have a copy of that book, or you know someone that might really need to read this, very, very important. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Michelle. This has been delightful, and you're delightful. It has been wonderful. Thank you.
Well, we'll chat very soon. Thanks.
Okay, I appreciate you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us for today's broadcast. I do hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And be sure to visit us online at leadershipbooks.store. There you'll find the works of some of the finest thought leaders today. And be sure to tune in here each week to gain even deeper insights from one of those leaders on the Compendium podcast.